Before we begin, do me a favor. Try to remember the smell of a 90s summer. Not just the memory, but the actual, physical smell. Can you smell the chlorine from the public pool? The scent of freshly cut grass mixing with gasoline from a lawnmower? The smell of a yellow slip and slide spread out on the grass? That mix of plastic and water? That's where we're going. Not just back in time, but back to the feelings you forgot you had. Let's remember what that summer was really like. Perhaps the true sound of a 90s summer morning wasn't birds chirping, but the sharp slam of a screen door shutting behind you. That sound was the official start of a day with no plan. No itinerary, no scheduled playdates. You didn't tell your parents where you were going because you rarely knew yourself. The only destination was out, and the day would invent itself as it went along. It was the first bookend of a perfect summer day. The second, of course, was the glow of the streetlights calling you home, a rule we all knew well. And what was the vehicle of choice for these unplanned adventures? Your bike. You remember the feel of those plastic handlebar grips, worn smooth by your hands, maybe with colorful streamers coming off the ends. The sound of the baseball card you clipped to the spokes with a clothespin.
3, 2, 1, and let it roll.
Trying to make it sound like a motorcycle. You remember that bike, don't you? It was your ticket to true independence. A solo run to the corner store to get warheads and test your limits was now possible. Your world instantly went from just being your street to the entire neighborhood. All of it was yours now. And how did we coordinate plans without cell phones? We didn't. We had something better, the human doorbell. It was the sound of your own name, yelled from the street, piercing the afternoon quiet. It wasn't a notification you could ignore or swipe away. It was a live, unmissable summons, a raw, analog call to adventure. And you always answered, racing to the window and yelling back, "Be right down," before you even thought to put on your shoes.
What's the matter, Bobby?
Sometimes a regular squirt gun just won't do. Introducing the Super Soaker 50.
I'm back.
The water fights of our childhood had one clear before and after. The arrival of the Super Soaker. Before, it was all tiny pistols that ran out in 3 seconds. After, it was about the signature feel of that neon plastic, the rhythmic pumping to build pressure, and the roar of a thick stream of water hitting its target. It was the ultimate upgrade. Owning one meant you went from being a target to being a threat, and every kid in the neighborhood knew it. Of course, sometimes the goal wasn't to attack your friends, but just to survive the heat. That's when the slip and slide came out. It was a long yellow sheet of plastic that promised a water park experience and usually just delivered grass stains and a bruised hip. Rollerblading in the 90s was a trial by pavement. Those heavy plastic boots promised speed, but first delivered a summer of scraped knees and raw palms. We all learned the hard way that the little rubber stopper on the back wasn't a brake. It was a myth. But that one moment you finally found your balance, gliding down the street with your Walkman providing the soundtrack. That was a feeling of pure, hard-won coolness that made all the scars worth it. Not every summer day was spent outside. Sometimes the most important world was the one inside the TV, and the only tool you needed was the plastic controller gripped in your sweaty hands. This was the era of the console wars. Nintendo versus Sega. You'd be on the floor, way too close to the screen, completely zoned out. The goal wasn't just to beat the game, it was to beat your friends, to prove you were better at Street Fighter 2, to humiliate them in Mario Kart. The sounds of the real world coming through the window didn't even register. It wasn't just a game, it was a matter of pride. Then there was the quiet obsession that took over the sidewalks, Pogs. The game was a ritual of sounds. The sharp click-clack of stacking waxy discs on hot pavement, and the satisfying thwack of your slammer hitting the pile. You had your favorite designs, but that heavy slammer felt like a secret weapon in your hand, because the real thrill wasn't just flipping them, it was winning them. When you played for keeps, you weren't just playing a game, you were building an empire.
I've never seen 10,000 tapes in one store.
There's so much kid stuff.
The energy of summer wasn't just about action outside. It was about the sacred Friday night ritual. The pilgrimage to Blockbuster. The moment you walked through those doors, you were hit with that specific smell of plastic, popcorn, and possibility. We'd wander the aisles for what felt like hours, past the massive wall of new releases, through the aisles of comedies and horror movies you weren't quite allowed to watch. The family negotiation over which movie to pick was a battle of wits and wills. But finally, you'd make your choice and head to the counter, the blue and yellow box in hand. And on that tape was the final, universal law of the 90s. Be kind, rewind. There's a perfume you can't buy in a store, but you know the scent by heart. It's the official perfume of a 90s summer, and it had 3 main ingredients. First, that sharp chemical sting of chlorine the moment you walk through the gates of the public pool. Second, the sweet coconut haze of sunscreen. And finally, the smell of charcoal and lighter fluid from a neighbor's grill firing up for the evening. You mix those 3 together, and you don't just get a scent, you get the smell of being a kid, with nothing to do tomorrow but this all over again. And what about the taste of summer? It often came in a long plastic tube. You knew them as Otter Pops, or maybe Freeze Pops. The concept was simple: frozen sugar water. The execution was a constant struggle. First, finding the scissors to even open it. Then, the inevitable tiny, sharp cuts it would leave in the corners of your mouth as you pushed the ice up. And finally, the race to finish it before it all melted into a sticky mess down your arm. It was the taste of pure, artificial grape victory. But there was one sound that could stop an entire neighborhood in its tracks. A sound that was both magical and panic-inducing. That slightly out-of-tune jingle echoing from a few streets away. For many of us, that wasn't just any truck, it was Mr. Softy. The moment you heard it, a frantic scramble began. The desperate search for $1 or $2. The mad dash out the door, barefoot on the hot pavement, trying to flag it down before it disappeared around the corner. It was a race against time for a soft-serve cone with that perfect swirl. But there was another, quieter magic that belonged only to the summer nights. The fireflies. Or maybe you called them lightning bugs. As twilight settled, they would begin to appear, their tiny lights blinking on and off in the dusk. It felt like the stars were coming down to visit. We'd grab an empty jar, punch some holes in the lid, and set out on a silent hunt. The goal was to create a living lantern, a temporary galaxy held in your own hands. You'd watch them glow for a little while, and then, almost always, you'd open the lid and let them go, watching them disappear back into the night. And that was our world, a world of scraped knees, melted popsicles, and adventures that ended when it got dark. A world that felt simple, analog, and like it would last forever. But a change was coming, and it arrived through the phone line. It was that screeching, buzzing, alien sound. The sound of a dial-up modem connecting. We didn't know it then, but it wasn't just connecting us to the internet. It was connecting our small, analog world to everything. It was the sound of the 90s summer, as we knew it, coming to an end.